predictive programming for the Charlie Kirk ritual. There's a movie called Snake Eyes, which came out in 1998, and in that movie, U.S. politician Charles Kirkland is assassinated at a live event by a shot through the neck. Charles Kirkland, like Charles Kirk. And obviously, Charlie Kirk was also shot in the neck, allegedly, right? Well, in the movie Snake Eyes, the heavyweight boxer Lincoln Tyler is in the ring during the assassination. Tyler, like Tyler Robinson. And in Gematria, Lincoln Tyler is 165, like Tyler Robinson is 165, and his nickname is the Executioner, okay? Well, the big part here, guys, in the movie Snake Eyes, the assassination occurs on September 10th. Charlie Kirk was allegedly assassinated on September 10th. Can you believe this, guys? And also, see how Nicolas Cage is doing the hands like Charlie Kirk? Also, Donald Trump does that hand sign. And also, we're in the year of the snake right now. It's called Snake Eyes. But wow, just, you put that all together. Charles Kirkland shot in the neck. Lincoln Tyler equals Tyler Robinson. And you're telling me the assassination in the movie happened on September 10th? The same day the Charlie Kirk event happened? Oh my goodness.
Listen, while they're distracting people with big headlines, the insiders are getting ready. Billionaires, big banks, and governments are all quietly hoarding gold and silver. They know the dollar is being devalued, and they know the next crash is coming. While they prepare, the average American is left in the dark. But you don't have to be. Noble Gold Investments makes it simple to protect yourself with the same investment-grade gold and silver the elites are stockpiling. Real assets you can hold in your hand or keep safe in your retirement account. You can either watch the next crisis unfold or follow the moves of the ones pulling the strings. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com right now. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Follow the money. It always tells the truth. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. We're going out of the Matrix into Prime Reality. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube for an evening show about Psyops, false flags, and distractions. This is what this month is about. This is October is full of these things, and you're going to hear all kinds of announcement stories. The comet that's up there approaching Mars, I think, and the weird patterns, lights and gas and of course, all of these things are interesting, but they are noise compared to the signals that are really beaming loudly. And this is really a sort of a matrix transmission. It's about what is happening in the matrix and what we need to know versus what is so loudly pronounced through all the channels. We have just lived through an operation that has captured people's attention for 2 weeks, which is not easy to do in this day and age, but 2 weeks, the Charlie Kirk assassination. And now, you know, the more time that passes as usual, the more absolutely crazy facts appear, just like this movie Snake Eyes, all these coincidences, all these new facts that are coming to light, and it always paints the same picture. But why, right? There are many reasons. There's not just one. But if something can, you know, activate people to be fully invested for 2 weeks, a lot of things can get done in that time. And this is what so often happens fall, October, in the world of politics, in the world of finance, technology. Everybody's back to business. The summer lull is over. And so a lot of important things in conferences, meetings are happening in October. People are getting together. But there's only 3 major subjects that you need to pay attention to. These are the 3 signals that tell you where we are on the timeline to this dystopian goal of this one world order that's still in place and where the matrix is going. So 3 things that you need to think about when it comes to that and pay attention to. digital ID, digital money, and the merger of biology and technology. Those are the three things. Nothing else matters in this world today any longer, really. And that is sad to say because there are a lot of important things. But when the three things that I just mentioned, digital ID, digital money, and bioconvergence, so the merger of technology and biology, when they happen, that's the game over point, right? So wherever that is implemented, it's not impossible to come back from, but it's so difficult. And I want to play you, before we talk a little more about this, an interview that aired yesterday on Redacted News with an MK Ultra whistleblower called James Martinez. And he's not the first person to say this. We have heard similar things in other words and with different resources from Sabrina Wallace, who is for all intents and purposes, a positively obsessed researcher in the fields of bio-digital convergence, what has already happened, how the biofield has been hacked, how our bodies have been hacked, how our minds can be hacked. I strongly suggest you follow her, Synergy, PSI, Synergy, on Odyssey, on X. She's out there beating the drum, and thankfully millions of people are starting to pay attention. But here's a guy that perhaps is for people that are not as deep down this rabbit hole, a little more understandable, a little more sort of language that people are used to, and really a good intro to what we're going to talk about here. So let's watch this little. I took a 13-minute clip or so, 14-minute. We edited this out, and you can find the full interview in the video description. Let's watch this together.
Ultra, I exposed a certain part.
Well, let's do this again.
I was the gentleman that came.
Here we go.
Ultra, I exposed a certain part of it. I was the gentleman that came to Walter Boert, who wrote the book Operation Mind Control, the first one in 1978. This was the exposure of the church water hearings in relation to the using of human subjects, Americans, for neuroscience in forms of torture, LSD, child abduction, and so forth, as an R&D project that was already in motion that came into the United States after World War II. I came in many, many years later when we posted and published Operation Mind Control Volume 2, the Special Researchers Edition, where I brought testimony into him about what essentially the behavioral science was used for and how they were faking alien abductions and using hypnosis, screen and scramble memory technology, drugs, and advanced technology on the public. So that was new news at that time, and very secret, very, very, very secret in the early 90s. So when I met him, I said, okay, he found out, okay, this is what the technology is used for. And I brought in the aspect, okay, this is, they're able to manipulate consciousness enough to create a fake abduction and make it intense enough that the person will have post-traumatic stress disorder and all sorts of syndromes related to the trauma event. Because CIA and all of that stuff related to MK Ultra was about behavior modification. And the utilization of behavior modification for maintaining secrets, passing messages on, sex slavery, and codification of information and so forth. So that's how I met him in the early 90s, because I had already been involved in the disclosure aspect with big media people behind the scenes. One of them was Bob Guccione at New York, who ran Penthouse magazine. And we formed what was called, at that point, the Freedom of Thought Foundation, which basically was a 501c3 that stood for the right and freedom to have cognitive liberty, or the right to your own thoughts, the right to your own identity, the right to all things, the right to your own brain, the right to your sovereign self for being here, for having an existence that's not controlled by somebody else. We were the first to do that. And back then, nobody knew anything about this at all. They barely knew what was going on at all. There was a very small handful of people that was involved with this. Colonel Fletcher Prouty was involved. Colonel Tom Bearden was involved. Walter Boert was involved. I was involved. We had to sign agreements with psychiatrists and psychologists because they were terrified, because a lot of their clients had been abused in various programs and they became clients. So we were looking at all the neuroscience and the effects of the neuroscience on culture in the United States. So this is what's going on behind the scenes, unbeknownst to basically everybody.
MK Ultra program going from the 1950s to the 1970s, but of course, people think it ended in the 70s, but it became even more robust.
We're in it. We're in it right now, which is the reason why I'm coming out and telling everybody now, because there's been movies, media, people have been talking about this, what we did all over the place. People can handle it now, but what they can handle and maybe not be able to handle is the reason why I'm doing this interview in the first place, and why I was put in touch with you, because I was given a lot of people to talk to, and you were on the list, because initially when the 501c3 was set up, it was a nonprofit foundation to educate the public about how important it is to maintain our cognitive liberty. This supersedes the Constitution, law, everything, right? It's your right to have your own thoughts. And as an attorney and people associated with law, they're kind of getting acquainted with this now and what this is going to mean to human rights. So to the point reason I came here to talk to you is because recently I was asked to be the chief advisor on a committee related to the brain-computer interface and its relation to the international standards for technology. That basically is they're a group of countries all over the world, and they all have committees that represent their country. Those committees determine what the standards are going to be for technology when it's commercialized and goes all over the world. Like, for instance, the phone or a toaster or whatever, it's got to meet certain safety standards and all this type of stuff. These committees are determining public policy about what's going to happen when you interface the brain, the computer, AI, and the quantum. That's going to end everything, period. It's the end. It's the initiation of the decapitation of a relationship to God. Will become cybernetic, will become, instead of carbon, will be silicon-based life forms, cybernetics, and they're going to do this via voluntary compliance. Most people will walk right into it, not even knowing they're doing it or want to do it, because there's portions of the population all over the world, in the younger generations, that feel that humanity has no hope at all, and they're going to fuse with this technology already. So the brain-computer interface, it's tied in to everything. All our warfare systems, all our banking systems, all our health systems, all in the ways we do commerce and move about in culture. This is the extinction level event, because you no longer are an organic free will human being. You're now fused, tied into the cloud. And there's a documentary film crew that's recently contacted me, and I've talked to many people behind the scenes now. I've not been really public, not as much as I used to be, because I've always been in the solution-orientated thing. Don't tell an audience just a problem without telling them a solution. So I don't want to come here and say, okay, we're at the end of civilization, and that's it, goodbye, have a nice day, rather than inform your audience, inform the people that will see this either live or taped or a year from now or 6 months from now, that this is the point where you can no longer be a spectator, period. Because everything that's in the news today, when this will be aired, is not relevant at all. It's all misdirection. And I say it's not relevant at all, not because it's not important, because it is important, but the behind the scenes, the powers that be want everybody distracted with the Epstein and the war and Gaza and Africa and all this other stuff. When I'm in touch with a lot of people in other countries, and I've informed them that this activity is taking place now. To summarize it and make it relevant for people that may be new to this, Palantir, everybody knows that name. They are aiding and abetting the end of our species. Okay, so what I am saying, and I will have documents in the near future, he's going to be sued by many people to begin the process of public dialogue, public policy, and your rights to your own brain. Now, there's already been laws that have been passed in the governor of California just passed the laws protecting somebody's individual brain and their personality, because now what's happening is the very symptoms of all this are happening because people are cloning their personalities, cloning their voices, and putting them into the internet. And this is all going to create, there's no law in anything in the world prepared to deal with this and what's going to happen. None.
What specifically do you think is going to happen when we talk about an extinction level event?
Extinction, when I'm referring to extinction, I'm saying the form in which your body is in now. You go walk around and you don't have any wires attached to you. You're bathing in electricity and EMF and all sorts of radio waves and everything else. But some people are more apt because their bodies are being used as energy chargers for the cloud if they've had the kill shot. Other people that are not, that don't have nanotechnology in their blood or on their skin, or they've ingested, they still can be transmitted. Synthetic technology, or telepathy rather, their moods can be altered. They can induce modules of schizophrenia. So this is what's really going on. This is the end goal. So when the World Economic Forum came out and they're bragging about what they're going to do with everybody, whatever they're saying they're doing, they're probably 5 years ahead of it already. And they just tell off the tail parts of it. But when they said they were going to get rid of a large portion of the global population, they didn't exactly say all the details in which they're doing. People presume that means we're dead. They're going to kill people. And yes, they are doing it, but they're using all sorts of soft kill weaponry to do it, to make it so they don't look like they're doing it. And they get everybody involved to be aiding and abetting in that. But this is invisible. Can't see where it's
so
coming
who's behind this specifically? We talk about MK Ultra. Is this part of the CIA MK Ultra program, part of your investigations and whistleblowing?
Yeah, this is part of the corporations aiding and abetting in the computer industry, the cell phone industry, the cell tower industry, and the satellite industry. Because you need, in order to make all these programs work, you have to have your subjects be fully invested and almost cybernetic with all their devices. In other words, I mean, how many people do you see a day that have their face in their phone all day? Or at least 8 to 10 hours a day, all over the place. And you have people in the cafes. So this has already altered cultural behavior and biology. It's already got biological impact anyway. We're not supposed to be sitting in cafes in front of phones for 12 hours in a row. Okay, so this is already happening and people are voluntarily complying and falling into this. So there's effects that are happening about this already. But in order for it to work, you have to have the legal compliance of the states and everybody that are putting up the towers. Because you might notice as well that if you're looking, and I don't know if you've covered this or not, there's people on the Hill right now that have testified in Congress about the use of neurostrike weapons on the brain in targeted individuals. This is a legitimate complaint because the first lawsuit in history against targeted individuals was filed by Anna Toledo, the attorney in Texas. This is related to all of this because remember, to perfect weaponry or perfect a system, you need to test it. And a lot of these systems and weapons are being tested on the public unbeknownst to them because it's coming through the electricity because you're an electric being. Your heart rate and everything it's an electric composite. You are affected by electricity or the weather and so forth. When you're surrounded this in your house, on your phone, under 5G conditions, it's basically micro escalation to prepare you for 6G. When they put out the cell phones, were basically training wheels for the public to prepare them for telepathy, because the effective instantaneousness was altered by the user in the interface. In other words, initially this started off with a pager. You may remember a long time ago when people had pagers. and they'd always be looking in an anticipatory state, waiting for their pager to go off, and they'd always have it in their hand. And then after that came the mobile phone, and then the mobile phone turned into the small iPhone or Android that we see. And then the effect and the alteration of our central nervous system is related to that technology because it sped it all up and created the effect of instantaneousness. The effect of instantaneousness altered your cognition and altered how you interact with everybody in your universe. So they made stepping stones to get us to this part where we're at now, where the fusion of the brain, computer, AI, and quantum will be put into one. Now, that's why I came here, is to tell everybody that these discussions are going on behind the scenes without any dialogue with your so-called elected employees anywhere.
All right, so I encourage everyone. We put the link to the full redacted interview with James Martinez, the whistleblower here, in the show notes down below. So why are we talking about this? People say, well, this is fear mongering. This is, this is putting our attention where it shouldn't go. And, but I don't, that's, if you want to play in a sandbox in kindergarten, go play in a sandbox. Adults do not think like that. Adults actually look at the reality of a real problem, identify it correctly, and then find solutions. Everything else is childish, and that's okay. No, you just do you. The reason why this is so important is because there's so much noise in the world, and it's very simple now. When you break it all down and when you remove the noise, it's very simple. There's an agenda at work, and it is becoming clearer to people what that is. It's been out in the open for a long time now. People have uncovered it. People have talked about it. People have written about it, done movies about it. So we're in an agenda. We're caught up in an agenda where a different type of entity or different types of entities are creating a full-on takeover, if you will. And just like he shared, and like we've shared many times before, what is happening with the geoengineering and the weather manipulation has nothing to do with what they say it has to do. It is a terraforming operation where the atmosphere, where the combination of gases, the temperature, everything is being altered in order to be conducive to a silicon-based species, not carbon-based species, right? And for that to happen, other things have to happen as well. The biodigital convergence is one of them. So ignoring these things won't do anything. On the positive side of what every human being can do, and this is what we have been encouraging, the most important thing is to level up. You have to rise to that innate, natural co-creator status. That's what we're all called to do. We have to awaken, remember, and activate those abilities within us that allow us to not just alter our own little reality bubble, which many of you are already doing, but actually alter the entire course of reality. That's the greatest solution. All of the other stuff doesn't even come close. Forming organizations, doing protests, gathering signatures, writing to your representative. I mean, whatever you're called to. I'm not saying don't do these things, but they are minuscule in effect compared to what I just talked about. And then using at every opportunity a very powerful 2-letter word and standing by it, which is no. Simply no. We're not doing digital ID. We're not complying with it. Today, virtually all digital ID is tied to a smartphone. Well, I don't know about you, but there is no law for you to own a smartphone. You can't be ordered to carry one or to own it. Do what you will with that, but maybe get a flip phone. Keep your smartphone at home, do something else with it, use it in other places, but don't carry it with you. Don't fall for this. This is a classic frog in the water kind of scenario where the water temperature is slowly increased so we don't notice that we're getting cooked. And then the other thing that we talked about on yesterday's show, we're going to talk about more, is changing our lifestyles. Yes, most of us, the vast majority, have been born into this system of dependency, convenience, reliance on the systemic structures for our most basic needs: water, food, shelter, power. We were born into full reliance. So if somebody says to me, there's nothing I can do because they're just going to, keep me from buying food, or let's say, well, I haven't met a farmer that I buy food from that requires digital ID, or even wants to see your phone, or an ID, or even takes credit cards. They actually prefer cash or even barter. Your garden, all of these things, people say, I can't do that. That's fine. Then this is not for you. This show's not for you. We're not for you, because then your addiction to the current lifestyle and comfort, whatever that means, is bigger than your desire to be free. And that is okay. I'm not judging you for it, but then we're just not for you. This is not what this is about. This is about creating resilience, and actually seeing that on the flip side of this is the possibility for a completely different and free and sovereign life. And there, if people don't have a hill to die on, which means a knowing and a conviction so strong that, and so powerful, that there is no option where they would sacrifice it or compromise it, even if it would mean the end of the physical body, they still wouldn't do it. That's the kind of conviction that this whole thing will require of us, because it won't succeed. See, this won't succeed. It will move forward. It will get worse, but it won't succeed. But it only will not succeed because enough people will say no and choose alternatives. So here's the thing. There are no alternatives. If you're in a digital ID, central bank, or other digital currency reliance, if you are in that, even those two, just the digital ID and digital money, that's game over for freedom. And what most people don't understand, digital money doesn't simply mean, oh, it's like credit cards or it's like debit cards. No, not at all. See, today you can take your credit card and you can buy anything you want with it. Now, it could be that somebody doesn't want to sell you something, but then you go to the next store and buy it there. Okay. With digital money, actual digital money has a specific function where it can be programmed. Digital money can be programmed. What does that mean? Let's just say money turns into a token, and that token can be changed. Or, for example, what can be done is, let's just say you have 50,000 tokens, but they're only valid for 30 days. So you have to spend them. If you don't spend them, they're gone. That's one of the functions, meaning it's creating the inability to save, for example, right? Because saving money, saving tokens could be a way of having more choices. The other way to program it is that you can only use that money in a specific geographic area. So let's just say, cities have already started with their districts where, Oxford is one of or Oxfordshire, I should say, in the UK is one of those famous examples where they have made those districts, and they're slowly rolling out rules. And eventually they want to only let people, walk from one or go from one district to another so often. And then they're not allowed to use their cars and whatnot. So they will program money to only work in that district for that person. Or another way to do it is to say, well, you have exceeded your limit for meat this month. You can't have, you already bought 2 pounds and then you already had a burger at a restaurant. You can't have more. We're tracking this because, for different reasons, they could say because your blood pressure is too high for them, because obviously your wearables or your implants are giving all that data away. So there's a central tracking system, an algorithmic system that is making these choices. And if you think this is crazy, no, this is exactly why these systems are created, for this particular reason. Go and tune into a WEF meeting. Go and tune into UN meetings. It's literally what they're saying in the meetings. They're saying we have the technology now where we can track the behavior of people. And once we have the digital money in place, we can change the behavior by disabling or enabling money. You make a post that they don't like, boom, your digital wallet just doesn't work. So that's why these systems are created. There's no other reason. And they're even telling you how. Why are they telling you? Well, what is Keir Starmer saying to the people in the UK right now? Talking about having to, for every adult, they need to have a digital ID. Why? So they can enforce the law. Which law? Well, it's now about immigrants. Oh, we saw that one coming from about 15 years away. So they opened the floodgates, allowed for some of the worst people to come into the country and commit some of the worst crimes, horrific crimes, do nothing about it. Not just do nothing about it, but actually punish the native population of the UK for speaking out, for making posts about it, for creating awareness around it. So what does that create? Well, that creates a civil war-like scenario. And now what is the solution? Oh, if we all have digital ID, then we can track people. We know exactly where they are, who they are, and where they're supposed to be or where they're not supposed to be. Well, so they're telling you it's to control people, it's to control everything. So the only way here is one, up-leveling and stop being a subject to a false authority and answering to it, because who has ownership over you? If you want to know more about this subject and how it really works, watch yesterday's show, I think an eye-opener. And then to say no, folks. It's as simple as that. When enough people say no and don't play along, things can't happen. It's and that whenever people fight me on this, then I'd like to say, get the fuck out of the way. If you're going to whine about what can't be done, get the fuck out of the way. I don't want to hear it. You're an obstacle. Just do your thing. I don't care. Go and lick your master's boots if you want to. We're not going to do that. There's more than enough people who will never do that because they know who they are, and they will never kiss their master's asses because they don't have a master. And for everyone else, well, you made your bed, sleep in it. So while the world will present you with psyops and false flags and distractions about things that ultimately don't really matter, there will be groups with very boring acronyms meeting next month that people usually don't hear about. The IMF and the World Bank will be meeting, and they will be discussing, for example, the implementation of the new international money transfer rules. And it will sound very boring, but basically, starting November at the latest, every bank has to adhere to the new rules where transactions will be much more they will be standardized, so separate countries won't have their own systems any longer, and it will be able they will be able from a more centralized standpoint to just stop money from being sent if it doesn't meet all the standards. They will need much more information for wire transfers and sending money between people. So all of that's going to take place. Then organizations like ICANN, they're going to meet and discuss internet standards that sound very boring, but basically limit freedom on the internet. Then the new EU Digital Act is now fully getting into force, where basically one of the things that is going into force this October is that every device that's connected to the internet, it's now mandatory that the device data, so all the activity there that's happening on that device, is being shared with the companies, with private organizations that are supposed to be watchdogs, and with the government when it requests it. So in other words, when you have an iPhone, when you have a whatever that's connected to the internet and you don't want to share the data, that's not possible anymore in the EU. That's now mandatory. Okay? The government doesn't need a court order officially now. They've been doing it forever, but officially doesn't need a court order to get all that data. All they need to say is there's a risk. We have reasonable suspicion, or there is a an emergency, like, remember the COVID emergency, and they can immediately access not just your data, but they can also access your individual, the algorithm that the company basically created for you and how it serves you, and basically access your behavior patterns through that. Because what do algorithms on social media do? They study your behavior and then suggest things to you. So they have data points, they have categories. So they will literally put you in a category. Oh, you like this, so you might like that and that and that and that. And if you interact with it and watch certain things and comment on them, then you're giving them the data points. So the government now will have access to a full psychological profile of you, because they now have the right to get all of that data from the companies that run the social media companies. And by the way, the compliance threshold is so high, and so much money needs to be invested to comply, that smaller companies won't be able to compete with that. So these are some of the things that are happening. Then there's another organization. It's called FATF, and it's another boring organization that wasn't elected, but they set the international standards for everything regarding money and crypto and whatnot. And in all the banks that are part of that system, I think 40 plus countries to comply with it, and all the other countries that are not a part of it have also to comply with it. Otherwise, no one is doing business with them. And they are now enforcing stricter crypto rules. So whoever thinks that crypto is anonymous, no, now the exchange platforms and the trading platforms will have to share all personalized data for every transaction with the government. So here we are, folks. For everyone who talked about the wonder of blockchain and privacy and crypto and digital money, none of it's true. All of it was always created to be a full-on control system. But guess who doesn't care? My friend, the farmer over the hill. He's got his livestock, got his garden, doesn't give a rat's ass about crypto. And, if people come on his property that weren't invited and mean him harm, he's got the answer for that. It's the ultimate answer. It's the final answer. So,
Jim is saying everybody needs to step off the plantation.
Yeah, step off the fucking plantation. I'm the first guy to tell you that spiritual empowerment, knowing who you are, is the key to everything. But turn the other cheek and bend over to get something up your behind is definitely not spiritual empowerment. Okay? That's not how this works, folks. You got to stand in your power. And when something comes at you and wants to hurt you, you neutralize it. You end that violence against you. But violence doesn't just come in physical form, it comes in all forms, right? And so people are coming up with very creative solutions. Now, I would never suggest that you break laws on purpose. I would never suggest that, but people do very creative things. I'll leave it at that. Also, knowing this, that in the end, whenever that is, this force, this power can never triumph. It cannot, because it is in its entirety minuscule compared to creation. It is anti-creation, literally. It uses and abuses beings that have creator power, manipulates and deceives them into helping it because it doesn't have that. It's an anti-creation. It's an anti. It's the anti-consciousness, and apparently more people still need to see the full expression of that before they realize where to look inward. So in the end, that inverted consciousness will never ever triumph. The question is, however, are we going through another Atlantis, another Lemuria moment? Do we need another reset, another flood to realize these things? Do we need to go through this entire bullshit, or can we actually turn the page in a different way? If I didn't believe that we could, I wouldn't be sitting here. Then I wouldn't give a rat's ass And I would just be out with the goats and the chickens and enjoy things until they're here, for as long as they're here. But I believe we can. I fully believe we can. And if you wonder who is on your side, if you wonder who is Team Humanity, it's not hard. Team Humanity never deceives. Team Humanity does not lie. Team Humanity doesn't run psyops on each other. Team Humanity is completely open. Now, some people are quiet, but they will not deceive you. Some people work in the background, but they will not deceive you. Some people stay in the shadows, but they will not lie to you. Whoever furthers the agenda of digital ID, digital money, biodigital convergence is not on your team, no matter what they're saying, no matter how many beautiful flags they're waving or what kind of bullshit they spew. They're not on your team. It's as simple as that. Now, people don't like that because they want to believe in fairy tales, they want to believe in heroes, and they want someone to save them. Well, then I'll be the bad guy today. There is no savior. There is no one that will come to save you, but there is baked into you everything that you could ever need to do that. And there is an innate, infinite power, the source of all creation, that is at your disposal, that is waiting for you to give it all the space that you can inside of you. Now, if you were looking for the savior, that's where it is. For those who are waiting for the physical return of the proverbial son, he will come, but he will be fake. He will come, but he will be a hologram. He will be a technological projection. He will be the ultimate seduction into a control system. The non-physical, the true consciousness, the expression of that which you're waiting for, which you might call Christ consciousness, higher consciousness, the elevated spheres of awareness. Now that is making a comeback fully right now. It's happening within many people. And then, the fundamentalists are saying, oh, that is worship of the self, because they are so blind they can't see that that's not true. None of us are worshiping ourselves. We're not worshiping the body. We're not worshiping our identity. We're not worshiping the name that was given to us at all. We're acknowledging the divinity from which we were created in the first place. And we're living up to that divinity. That is literally the epitome of knowing and what they might call faith, and not the worship of the self or self-idol or any of that crap. That's the fundamentalist psyop talk that's worked on people for so long, that need to be caught up in those religious cults that keep them small and always in fear and always waiting and anticipating. And it's going to happen. It's coming soon. Don't you know the rapture happened? 2 days ago? Happened 2 days ago. And the flood and the rapture and the revelation, all of it happened. And they're playing out these books, by the way. They're doing a good job at it. People think that scripture is coming is coming to life here, that God's word is being projected, is playing out by the force of God. Have you ever considered that they're using scripture as their script, literally, so that people would think that they're using scripture and playing out scenarios so that people think, oh my God, it's happening. If you control finance, media, politics, religion, you can play out any scenario you want. You can show all the signals, and you can make all the prophecies come true just by playing them out, just like you would in a movie or in a stage. And that's what they're doing and have been doing. The grand theater they've been playing for ages for the people. And as long as people are hypnotized watching, whether that was in the Colosseums, in the churches, it's now in the movie theaters, in the virtual reality space on the screens. As long as people are watching and hypnotized and believing the show, that's all that they need. Because we, by watching and believing, we are the projector. We are the energy source. We are the battery. We are the ones giving it the freaking energy that it needs to be played. There is no such thing as a reality that just plays itself. Everything comes from thought and creative vision. So when everything starts with thought, where do we need to change? If we don't perpetuate this with thought and vision and imagination, it cannot sustain itself because that's the power that it needs. There's no such thing as a self-perpetuating reality that just plays itself. Such a thing does not exist. So then, our mind, our beliefs, our knowings, our focus, our intention, our attention, our feelings, our actions, our words. You combine all of that, and you are the projector, the receiver, the projector, the translator of reality. What do you do with that? Forget the psyops, forget the movies, forget the distractions. Focus on that. And then tell me again, you have now felt the divinity within you, the ability to transcend your limitations. You have felt the spirit of the creator within you. And now tell me again that you're afraid to say no to digital ID or digital currency, that you're afraid to stand in your truth. Well, then you haven't felt it. Then you really haven't felt it. Because if you had, you would never be afraid. You couldn't be afraid. You would give them the finger and tell them to go screw themselves. That it's just not going to happen. We're just not going to do it. And when 5 people do it, well, not much might happen, but 5 million, 50 million, people go, what? We're not going to listen any longer. Same old stories, same old teams pretending to be different, steered by the same hands and the same goals. And finally root for team humanity and finally step into our true power. So this Psyop season, that's going to culminate on October 31st when people help them by celebrating Halloween. If I were you, if you have small children, I would never let them participate in this greatest of Saturnalia rituals where they get all their illusion, all their energy. I would never let them participate. And I would instead declare October 31st as the celebration of joy, creation, and highest bliss. And I would invite people over and sing beautiful songs and have a wonderful meal and set up beautiful decoration to show that this show is over. Give this inverted, sick, perverted, psychopathic consciousness no more space, right? And those who are not willing, those who are of that inverted consciousness, those who are in contract with the darkness and who are not willing to accept love and creation and beauty into their being, well, they will simply be returned to dust. And that must be okay too. Must be okay. It's okay. We can't get them all. We can't save everybody. It's just going to be returned to dust. So be it. All right, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us here. And on a lighter note, I want to end this with a funny story. And we shared in depth this morning in the Inspired community on Locals. This morning, we were sitting on the porch. I was actually in my bathrobe, maybe TMI, but we heard this yelling, screaming of one of our goats. And we saw that the other goats were on one side of the property and that scream came from the other side. And we found the goats stuck in the fence. And it was this whole rescue mission that we had. It was actually a fun episode, but we filmed it all. It's part of our series called Farm Tales. And it's It's fun, it's joyous, it's real, but it's about what we always talk about, even on a bigger level than before, creating the kind of life with the land, of the land, with the animals that gives you a beautiful sense of freedom and joy and sovereignty and just a zest for life. So if you want to follow along, of course we're doing other short shows on locals too, Coffee and Truth, Honey Talks. It's a more intimate community of like-minded people. Incredible. They're sharing. Our community is sharing about their adventures and what they're doing, about their healing journey, about their gardens, about their livestock, about their travels, about the groups, the kins domains that they're creating. They have Zoom calls together. So that's happening at inspired.locals.com. If you want to join us, we would love to have you. My friends, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for being here with us. We love you, we appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon. Christine and I would love to invite you into something really special. We started a new show on Locals called Farm Tales, where we share the real stories from our homestead, the animals, the garden, the beauty, and even the funny mishaps along the way. Just like all of our work, it's about living consciously in harmony with nature and creating a life of true freedom. Please click the link down below and join us for Farm Tales on Locals. We would love to see you there.